For more on what all this could mean for Scott Peterson, let's go to our legal panel. News Nation contributor Jesse Weber and trial attorney and legal analyst Misty Marris. Does the LA Innocence Project normally take on cases? Does it take on a case unless it thinks it's got a case, I guess is what I'm asking?
You want me to grab that one?
Yeah, grab it, Jesse.
So they're a notorious organization with, I will tell you, a very impressive track record.
Right.
And
what is their track record?
I can't give you the exact statistic, but there are a number of high-profile cases that they've taken on and won. And I'm talking about cases where these were people who were convicted 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I'm not surprised they took up this case. Particularly in 2024, Laura and I were talking about it before, there have been advancements in technology, but some of these claims, and I want to be very clear, we don't know exactly what their end game is or what they're looking for. They said they have newly discovered evidence.
Right.
But the idea about the burglars, we've talked about that already. These two burglars were already cleared by authorities as suspects.
And when they say newly discovered by whom? By them? Do we know, Misty?
We don't know, and that's what's going on with this filing. They're seeking not only, they're seeking information from court records that were sealed, they're looking at the DNA, and they are selective with the cases that they take. And a lot of the cases where they've had tremendous success does relate to those advancements in technology, where they're going back and retesting items that had been tested back in, we're talking 2002, where the technology has increased so tremendously. And that's where we've really seen their success. Now, whether or not this case and what they're looking at as newly acquired evidence relates to what they anticipate finding from that DNA, we don't know, because that's not the only thing that they're seeking.
No.
They're seeking, they've gone through a list of all of deficiencies they've seen in the file that they received relating to Scott Peterson. So it's a little unclear what's newly discovered and what's not in the file that they're currently reviewing.
And to be clear also, it's a very high burden to get a new trial. But they say they have the claims of actual innocence, that they can prove he didn't do it. Now, we've seen cases before that have been overturned where someone is granted a new trial or the charges are ultimately dismissed.
What's the bar they have to hit?
The burden's actually on them to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, the defense, and that's tough.
After his death penalty was overturned because a juror in his original trial was found to have lied when she said she wasn't ever involved in a domestic abuse or a domestic violence case. So they overturned the death penalty, but they said he's still in prison and he had no right to appeal that.
Right.
But he did have 120 days to bring new evidence.
Right. So they didn't overturn the verdict based on the juror misconduct. Now they're going a whole separate avenue. So in an appellate case, it's about whether or not there was judicial error or this other path, which is there evidence that was discovered after the fact that could potentially be enough to overturn the verdict. And I think that's what's interesting here, because they're saying they have proof of actual innocence, but they're still looking to retest the DNA. So I don't know how it could ever be that dispositive at this point.
And I wonder if they're suggesting that there was a misstep from his prior counsel, that they could have discovered this, they could have found this, but for whatever reason it wasn't. And if that's the case, that's a game changer. That's a game changer. If there was something there that couldn't have been discovered before.
That's true, but that would be an ineffective assistance of counsel type argument, which is a very, very difficult burden, because not only do you have to show errors that aren't just strategic, you have to show that they actually impacted the verdict.
Listen, I want to tell you, one of the jurors on that case told ABC News this week that he supports the Innocence Project taking on this case. He said there isn't a day that goes by that he doesn't think about this case. And he said, I think they're going to find something. It sounds to me like this juror, it's a man, is rethinking his guilty verdict.
That's very concerning, because you know very well that you need those jurors to be unanimous to vote in favor of conviction. So, I mean, look, the story has been in the news consistently for the past 20 years or so. Things have come out, things that maybe they wish they knew. I'd be very curious to see if this went to trial in a later, in a couple of years, what that would look like.
And the juror thinking about it, it's, over 20 years later, and you see so much in the media, they're making a decision about what's in the
made-for-TV movie. Yeah, I don't know.
It's different.
Listen, this guy, I was fishing on Christmas Eve. Oh, right in the San Francisco Bay, kind of near where my pregnant wife's body was found. And he was having an affair. There were so many things that came out that were so prejudicial and weird about this man.
And media interviews as well, which didn't do him. The police interview, which didn't do him any favors.
To me, I think unless there is some sort of DNA evidence that's a lot more objective than just other, I don't really see a chance here unless there's something that's really, really really to latch onto, because otherwise overturning the jury's determination and all of what we talked about that came out during the trial, that is an incredibly high burden.
All right. To be continued on this one. Wow, it's kind of a blockbuster headline out today. Misty Marris, Jesse Weber, thank you so much.